Hello, everybody, and welcome to Empower Hour. My name is Jim Paconin. I am the host, and I'm here with my very cool, very calm, very collected, which I am not today. Today, I'm not calm, cool, and collected like I normally am. It's been a stressful morning, but I still had great client sessions. So, cup of coffee from my favorite clown mug. This is the most disturbing mug. I only have one client that says, please do not bring the clown mug to your session.
Can I join them?
I know. I actually literally, on Wednesday mornings, I have to use a different cup because she's like, that cup creeps me out.
Cup is creepy.
Man. It is creepy. That's why I bought it.
I like my cup.
I like mine.
That is a small cooking utensil pan.
That's a liter.
That is not a cup. That's a cool one. That's simple.
I think it's the same amount though as hers. Hers just looks like a ginormous bowl next to her face.
So we're going to get going on Empower Hour. I don't think, we could talk about tech issues, but I really kind of want to talk about how society is shifting based upon a post-COVID world and how that really, how does coaching impact that? So I want to talk about this from a human personality side, and then I also want to talk about this from a coaching side. But before we get to our topic, I would like my co-host to introduce themselves. So we will start with Miss Amy and then have Sir Angelito.
Before we get started, thank you so much. I don't know if we're live in the group.
It says we are.
Oh, okay. I don't see it. So sorry if I'm interrupting.
It says we are. I'll check while you're introducing yourself.
Cool.
Let's see. Let's just keep going as if we were. If we're not, it'll be delayed a little bit. So
it's not showing on my end either. So
okay,
which is all good.
So we're still gonna talk, and we'll see what happens.
Cool.
Okay,
let's do this.
Cool. So my name is Amy Taylor. I live in a small country town in New South Wales in Australia. I don't say g'day particularly often because that was the response I got somewhere the other day when I said, I can't remember if it was you guys or someone else that said g'day.
Yes,
I am very much a multi-passionista at heart, which means that I tend to refuse to choose, and I play with lots of things in terms of the problems that I help people with, but the people that I help are generally coaches, course creators, or consultants who want to make a difference in the world. They're wanting to create some kind of transformation. I'm not interested in helping people create transactional businesses. I'm not interested in helping people go out and make millions of dollars and not be fulfilled. So I want to help people be fulfilled. I want to help people create a life they love. And by people, I mean generally people that have some kind of message they want to share with the world, and we work together on how to balance their life at home and get their shit together in business, and how to navigate the stuff from within, all of the inner world stuff. So that's me in a nutshell, but I don't feel it sums me up anywhere near enough because I am so much more than that.
I hear you.
Fantastic. Good to meet you, Amy Taylor.
So, who are you? Who?
You know how there are people who wake up every morning and they're already exhausted before their feet touch the ground, and they're already dreading having to go to work, to get ready, to drive in traffic, to listen to all the office gossip, to wait for their boss to tell them when they can go on break, and then drive back in traffic all the way home, feeling exhausted all day long, really not loving the work that they do, daydreaming about being other places and maybe getting on a flight and traveling the world and just wondering, am I ever going to get there? Is this my life right now? Is this how it's going to be forever? You know how there are people like that?
There are a lot of people like that.
Yeah. I help those people get out of that
Say,
situation.
you're not one of those people, though.
And I am not one of those people. In fact, I help liberate those people who feel that way, who are in those situations, and help them live and work anywhere as virtual coaches, help them tap into their superpowers and use those superpowers to help people, other people, while they get to live a lifestyle that they want as a virtual coach. And especially now, during these midterm elections in the United States, where everyone is going crazy.
Right.
So,
and quick note, we are not going to talk politics ever on this show.
We're not, but my mission is election proof. Help people election proof themselves. So no matter who wins, doesn't matter. You can get out of town if you want. So that's what I do. And if you're one of those people, connect with me and we'll help you get started.
And I am a transformational coach, and I do my best work with the people that right now they're lost. Like, we are in a post-COVID world. Your first career may have ended. You may be an empty nester. You may actually be in a midlife crisis. I assist those people to not only find out what inspires you, but to create a life that is simply amazing. And as we move forward in this new world, because it is a new world. And the funny thing is no matter what happens on November 8th in America, the world will go on. If you're listening to this and you're very frustrated, because right now I don't know where it's broadcasting out, but we do have one watcher. So no, it's not me, because I can't find it on the page, but I will probably post this up on YouTube. If you're listening to this, we're going to start off by what is a post-COVID world? Because one of the things that I know is that COVID had a massive impact on a lot of people. And there are a lot of people out there that right now they are very lost, right? Basically shelter in place for almost 2 years. Some people are still sheltering in place. And the thing is when you shelter in place and when you have to spend a lot of time with yourself, which is something that you may not have done pre-COVID, you may seem a little bit lost. You may seem unsure. Oh, I am live on Facebook?
On your timeline.
On your profile.
Oh, this is on my timeline? Oh, yep. Perfect.
That's an expansive bonus to other people that don't normally get access.
This is a perfect
yes, so I guess it's on my timeline. So if you are a friend of mine, this is Empower Hour, and normally this show is in one of the groups that I manage. And today it's on the timeline, and we're going to be talking about post-COVID. How perfect, huh, Angelito?
Perfect.
Angelito, do you think that maybe in a world where there is no Mac, right? No mistakes, no accidents, no coincidences, this worked in the group 30 minutes ago. And this time, boom, it goes to my timeline.
Boom. Gotta love it.
So getting back, like, we are in a post-COVID world. And in a post-COVID world, there are a lot of companies who literally, they don't need offices anymore. There are a lot of people working from home. And I think overall, like, some of those studies that I've read are showing that people are actually working harder at home because they can still take care of the kids. They can be with their pets. Okay, good. Thank you. They can be with their pets. Like, it is a real incredible opportunity for you to take a look at life, assess life. And now would be the time, if you don't love your life, now would be the time for you to create a life that you love. What do you guys think about that? Like, how do you guys see this post-COVID world?
as I was listening to you and talking about working from home with the kids and being able to access both, instantly like that lack of productivity for me on some level. I know working with the kids here, I say that though, and working with my kids homeschooling, I got a heap more done. I got a heap more because I had co-workers as such.
Mm-hmm.
I think we are definitely in a different world. We are definitely in a different space. I'm not really feeling it because I was already working from home. I was already working online. All of my clients, I think I've done 2 face-to-face sessions in 7 years. So I was already in a very online world driven, but I see it with my clients who aren't wanting to go back into the office, who are still wanting to work from home, who are finding difficulties navigating that. For me, though, it hasn't really made that much of a difference. My husband continued working through COVID because train drivers can't work from home, as much as we joked about that through lockdowns and stuff. It's like, I've got a train set. I can play with my trains at home, but it's not going to get the coal out there on the main line moved anywhere. So for me, I feel very disconnected from this topic. I'm open to share insights from a human behavior perspective and what we need from that human behavior perspective. But for me personally, it feels very disconnected. I'm not sure how you guys experienced it.
I mean, Angelito, go ahead and then I'll go.
Okay. I think that like it's a perfect opportunity because, you know, post-COVID people are now who were forced to work remotely. Their jobs are now calling them back in. And there's a lot of people out there who are like, I don't really want to go back to work. I don't really want to go back to the office. I really like working remotely. And now this is their opportunity to go learn something new because they don't want to go back to that job. And this is why I'm so passionate about helping people become virtual coaches, because that's exactly how you can remain remote, is tapping into your resources, tapping into your superpowers, and helping other people and creating a fulfilling life. And what's up, Debbie? It's been a while.
Hello, Debbie, and welcome.
Perfect opportunity post-COVID.
Yeah. And one of the things I will say, Amy, like I have been a coach literally since 2008. The only thing that COVID, I did go, basically when COVID started, I moved to the side of a mountain and my practice went completely online. And I had to give up one of the demographics that I served that I had to serve being right there. But other than that, my whole practice has gone online. And now, quite literally, I can live anywhere and do my work. Now, some of the studies that I've read is that as there are, and I don't know what percentage, but there's a percentage of the workforce. And I know at one point I read a lot of New York statistics in offices where they used to have 10,000 people a day. They now have less than 500 people a day. And that's allowing a lot of those employees have now chose to leave living near where the office was, and they've moved to areas of the country and they're now working remotely. And the thing about some of those people, like for me and my program, Amazing Second Life by Design, I actually, if there are some people who you want to keep that remoteness, you may actually keep your job, but maybe you need to create some aspect of your life that has it be amazing, or you may not want to keep your job and you may want to become a virtual coach, or you may want to start doing something that has always inspired you, or you don't know what you want to inspire. I mean, literally, between the 3 coaches here, and Debbie, welcome. I'm going to have you introduce yourself in a minute. Between the coaches here, we have it covered in assisting you to really create and live an amazing life.
Yeah. And, going back to COVID, I shared last week on another show that we did, Jim, that like I spent most of COVID chilling in Mexico. How many people can say that, where during a pandemic, you go to a different country and you chill? Yes, I took precautions and we're very, very careful and I mean, the pandemic was serious, but while most people were confined to their spaces and they couldn't leave, I was still living a pretty normal life with just the extra precautions. So that's what I'm saying about when I talk about election proofing yourself, when I talk about pandemic proofing yourself in your life. It's time to start thinking about the future as well. Like, this ain't the last pandemic, I'm assuming. And there's people got to get ready, like, if not for the freedom and beauty about being location free and location independent, if not for that, think about like how you can, prep for any surprises that may come.
And real quick before because I have a question for Amy, but I want to introduce Debbie. Debbie, it's been a while. Why don't you tell people who you are, what you up to, where you're calling in from, because we'd love to learn.
Good morning, everyone. It is morning here, early morning.
Early.
I'm in Queensland, so we're just gone 5 o'clock in the morning here at the moment. So I am, at the moment, I'm in a little bit of a transition point. Not so much a transition point, but a reassessment point of what's happening, where I'm going, what I'm doing, where my priorities need to be. So just tapping in, I guess, for all those things that you were just talking about, Jim and Angelito, with looking at what to do to make life interesting and exciting and rewarding at the same time.
Beautiful, beautiful. So my question for Amy, what about, are you seeing people that are more stressed? Are you seeing people that are like how has your client base shifted in the last year and a half?
I think because I work with coaches, most of which were online predominantly, and were looking to build that transformation already, I'm not seeing that so much in my client base. I'm certainly seeing it in the wider world, but it's not who I tend to attract. I used to attract stressed, overwhelmed procrastinators because of my marketing message and what I was putting out there. I realized at some point that I was creating that and that I didn't like the style of clients. That if you attract procrastinators, they procrastinate, and it's and I can help people overcome it. But when they've identified with being a procrastinator, it creates obstacles. So I tend not to attract people in that stressed, overwhelmed, burnt out space anymore. I attract people that are ready to reconnect with their passion and feeling more hopeful and are a little bit further along in that I don't tend to do pain-based marketing. I tend to do pleasure-based marketing. And as a result, I attract people who are looking for pleasure rather than people that are feeling pain. Does it make sense?
Sure.
Yeah. Angelito, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm all about using whatever it takes to get people to move, to get people to actually do something about it. Instead of constantly talking about it, I get people to do something about it. And, living and working anywhere is definitely a pleasure-based goal. But sometimes I feel like you got to point out, people really make it easy. Like, we've gotten really good at like covering our pain and using excuses to like lighten the situation. Like, oh, everything's fine. You talk to your friends or people that you meet, and the automatic response is, oh, I'm good. Oh yeah, everything's good. But then when you look under the covers and peel the onion a little bit, you find out that things aren't great at all, that things actually need to change, and people are like at the brink of like a breakdown. And like, that's what I'm learning a lot, talking to a lot of people constantly, that things are not fine. And that's the thing. It's like, when you are able to uncover the truth and really realize where that real motivation comes from, that's when real change can happen. The pleasure is icing on the cake. That is where we all want to be. So yeah, I agree with you, Amy, that like, yeah, like I want to surround myself with like people who are driven by passion and want to create. Yeah, and that's who I tend to attract as well. But I'd like to add that, like, to get them to move and to show up and to do the work, it's sometimes helpful to point out the truth.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting. With my new program, I've been interviewing people, and what I'm finding in this interview is the pain that people are experiencing. Like when you first ask people something, they're going to say, yeah, I'm okay, everything is good, you know, I'm getting through the pandemic, blah, 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 blah. But then when you start digging down and then like I ask some really pointed and focused questions, what emerges, unfortunately, is the pain that people are in. And for me, that's why I developed Amazing Second Life by Design, was so that it's a group-based program, because I've been doing a lot of work in addiction recovery and heavy trauma since 2008. And when I led those group programs in recovery centers, oftentimes the pain would surface, because if you think about somebody that is coming clean from their addiction, oftentimes they've had to reach rock bottom before they go into a center and do something. And then once they get in the center, when you're with a group of people, and for the most part, you're all kind of at rock bottom, or you can relate. My workshops were incredibly effective because a space of hope was created in the discussion. And one of the things that I see is at a societal level. So I don't work with coaches. I work with, I'm just going to say regular people, but at a societal level, there is a great deal of pain out there. And that pain that is out there, like there are a lot of people, right? The drug addiction is including people that are passing by drug overdoses. Alcohol sales are at record highs. People are turning to coping mechanisms to deal with the pain. And for me, I'd rather at a group level have them turn to a group coaching program where they can literally create what that next phase of life is. And when you do it at a group level, you're going to find out that there's a lot of synergy in the group. And together, you're not changing your life alone. You're changing your life together with other people. And that is what, like, where I see, it's actually interesting. I'm getting texts from people that are watching me on the page. It's like, oh, this is supposed to be on a private page, but it's on a group page.
That's okay.
Right? It's the beauty of making a little mistake on live Facebook.
Hey.
But the thing is I really believe that our birthright is to have an amazing life. And I really believe that the societal shift caused by the isolation of COVID and by how we've really literally had to restructure our life. And it's like, oftentimes when I talk to people, they bring up the pain, but the goal, the ultimate goal, is to have them understand where the pleasure can be so they can create a life and live into a life that literally gives them a lot more pleasure. And I think as coaches, it's our opportunity to assist people to really live the best life they can. And I also kind of prescribe to Angelito's, right? It's like I can do my job. In the fourth quarter of last year, I did my job from 5 different states as I was kind of exploring. And the thing is, as long as you have a time converter, I don't think my clients care.
How you describe it, a time converter. Back to the Future every time you see the flux capacitor.
The flux capacitor. But as long as I have my flux capacitor plugged in and I connect with them where they are, it doesn't matter where I am, because just like this video, I mean, if you really think about it, the people on this video, there's some of y'all are already in Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Like half of you are already in, your Monday is done. The other half of us, we are in it's the middle of our Monday.
Halloween is done too, just as on a side note. I was scrolling through my feed this morning as all of these Halloween, I'm like, Halloween, we're past Halloween. Halloween was yesterday. Clearly over there, it's not done yet.
Oh, it's Halloween today.
Yeah, it's like
Halloween. Well, it was Halloween, depending on the angle that you're looking at it.
We are completely in All Hallows Eve. It's a few hours from now. And kind of as I posted, right, this is the one day that everybody is just accepted exactly as you are.
I love that.
And you get candy, you get treats.
Yeah.
Yes. And, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as I was listening to you, Jim, what I noticed through COVID and even post-COVID is, and you talked about it a lot just then around the relatedness piece. So self-determination theory looks at 3 core needs that we all have. And I subscribe to it somewhat, and I also have other models that I subscribe to as well. But the autonomy, competence, and relatedness are the 3 that self-determination theory suggests. And for so many people, COVID stripped that. So the isolation took away their relatedness because they were no longer going into the office. They were no longer going to the shop. They were no longer doing all of the things they would normally do to connect with people. It screwed with competence because nobody knew what they were doing in terms of managing to protect ourselves. And we all had to learn a new way of infection control and navigating work from home. A bunch of people learning how, remember the first Zoom meeting I did with a bunch of my daughter's friends, and none of them knew how to operate Zoom. She was a pro because she's been watching me use Zoom. 2016, I started using Zoom. So she's been watching this, and she just dove right in. She developed competency very, very quickly. It was so hilarious watching her like a little mini me facilitating this little group of friends through Zoom. But most people were struggling with that. There was competency, like how do we create a Zoom meeting? How do we get online? How do we do our job from home? So there's a whole bunch of competencies being challenged and having to be extended.
That's how you do it.
Well, yes.
Step by step, right? Yeah.
Most people felt like autonomy had been stripped away. Their sense of choice felt like it had been eradicated. It hadn't, but it felt like it had been eradicated. So, and I think a lot of people are still in that space of not feeling like they have a choice, not feeling like they know how this new post-COVID world operates, and not feeling like they have competency. And the relatedness has shifted because many of us don't know how to go out and be social in a regular networking event anymore, or go to church. We haven't gone back to church properly because it's weird and it's different. And the old people are vulnerable, and I'm not taking precautions, particularly in the, I'm not taking precautions, but I'm not wearing a mask when I go to the supermarket anymore. I may well get exposed to bugs. I'm not then going to take it and potentially be the cause of the old people getting it. I'm also not going to wear a mask at church, so we don't go to church. But relatedness then disappears. And I think a lot of people are facing that.
Mm-hmm. And like I literally last year, I had a friend that wanted me to come visit her. And she just got wrapped up with her chemo after cancer. And quite literally, out of love for our friendship, I don't want to be the one that gives her the little bug, because at the time, and it was funny because she's like, but all my friends still come and see me. And I was like, but I can't, because I've been in 4 different states. I was from the Midwest to the West Coast. And it's like, I have bugs from parts of the country that you may not have. And your friends, like you're all in the same literal bug soup bowl.
Bubble.
Right? But it's really a bowl, or a bubble. Yeah, it's like you're all in the same. And it's like, I don't want to interject whatever I've picked up as I've traveled across the country.
Yeah.
And as coaches, I just see this as a great opportunity to assist in mankind, because there is a problem that people don't know how to quite literally be in this new world, right? Like the 16, 17, 18-year-olds, they're going to be the ones 5 years from now telling the story of, remember what it was like before COVID? Remember what it was like? And I think you're going to see, I would be surprised if the movie industry survives this whole thing, because Angela, you said this earlier, like people gathering in large crowds. I think it's going to be a while.
I mean, I don't know if
Yeah,
anyone
we're
has
back at
seen
the
what's happened in
movies.
South Korea,
Okay.
but like
Okay.
that was some major crowds going on. But before we continue, I just want to say something to Debbie. Notice how things have changed a little bit in terms of like just talking. You'll notice it. The three of us, Debbie, love to talk, and most of the time talk over each other because we're like getting on trying to. So if you want to talk, I would just go for it. You're not being rude, but these two right here, including me, we love to talk. So
Cool. Thank you.
So Debbie, what do you think? Listen to this, because it's been a bit since you've been on. So what are you hearing in this conversation? And interesting, right? Debbie is one of the ones I interviewed.
Yeah. So I'm just, because it's been a little while, so I'm just absorbing at the moment rather than trying to throw in contribution. Yes, and all those things are true. That the world as we know it is different. I know I get uncomfortable. Like, not that I went to a lot of things anyway, but I get even more uncomfortable now to be, even out of the shops or just going out to do general things. And a couple of clubs that I'm a member of, they want to hold in-person meetings, and I'm like, no, I don't want to. Let's just keep the Zoom meetings. I can handle them. I'm happy to contribute. I'm happy to be involved, but for all of us to gather into a small room and be be in that closer proximity. And I think the other part of it is just the convenience. If you don't have to hop in your car and drive half an hour, and I don't know what it's like where you guys are, but here fuel is, so I've got a diesel vehicle, and basically it's $2.40 a litre for fuel. So, and that's, that just seems to be going upwards at the moment, even though, you look at the barrel prices and they aren't that high, but that doesn't seem to be translating to the prices at the gas station. So that kind of means if I don't have to go somewhere, well, then I don't. So all that kind of compounds into that whole not wanting to go and socialise, not wanting to have to travel everywhere, every day.
Which is another. It's where I am right now. My office is about 100 feet. So I just have to walk back. I get in my 1962 trailer, I fire everything up, and I'm ready to go. So yeah, as opposed to driving an hour to get to an office, my office is right here. And since this morning, since I'm, the room is being the group is being converted over to Empower Hour, I just thought I would be in here, even though in the last week we have 2 internets now to make sure that I always have internet, because doing these lives are very, very important. Like It's just empowering people. I really feel now is the time to be empowered. Now is the time moving forward.
I agree with you, Jim. And, the fact that this was accidentally broadcast to your personal timeline, again, there are no accidents. And I'm just wondering, because we're talking about COVID and post-COVID life, how many people out there have been forced to look into their lives and realize whether they identify with midlife crisis or not, because that's what you specialize in, whether they identify and see that they're going through a midlife crisis or not. I'm wondering how many people have realized their life is in some sort of a crisis period. And if they have decided or have noticed that they're ready to create some change. Because I think that's what this pandemic has done, is to get people to really look inside and just see like all parts of their lives that they want to change. And it's the people who do actually take action and take this opportunity to make those changes, to not do things the same, that I feel like are going to thrive in a post-pandemic society, post-pandemic world.
Because we are, even if the next strain comes back, we are going to survive. But yet, if you are doing more addictive behaviors and you see that that's negatively impacting your life, now is the time to reach out and get some assistance. It really is, because I don't think we're going to go back to where we were, right? There is going to be a BC aspect to our life. Remember life before COVID? Angelito, do you remember when we used to get together? Amy, okay. even, well, go ahead.
I was going to say, I might, this might cause a little bit of discomfort, whatever. English is not my strength. Discomfort. But I feel like the precautions that I take are so automated now. Yeah, I will put on a mask. I don't put on a mask everywhere. It's like if I see a bunch of people wearing a mask, I'll wear a mask, but I don't normally anymore. And I feel like for me, again, this is just for me and what I'm experiencing, I feel like everything's back to normal. I've families hugging each other again. I shake hands, no problem. I am in public spaces and I talk freely, and I'm not a germaphobe. I actually feel like I used to be more of a germaphobe pre-COVID than I am now. I feel like I was so contained during COVID that now I'm just like, let me get out. So I take precaution, but I don't see the world being any different.
Amy, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I think for those of us in this coaching world and in the personal development world who take awareness of what we're doing and are conscious in our choices, most of us have adapted. So very few people in my coaching world are trying to get back to what life was like before. They've adapted, they've evolved, which is what I'm hearing from you, Angelito. You're now unconsciously navigating the precautions that you need to take in terms to keep you safe.
For other people.
And for others. But we evolve. And there are some people that evolve very effortlessly. Effortlessly is possibly not quite the right word. But more willingly than others. There are others that like to cling. There are others and I think those of us that are attracted to coaching and leverage coaching, generally we tend to be reasonably fast adapters. That's why we like coaching, because we discover the limitation, we explore it, we connect with it, we challenge it, we change it, we move forward, we integrate a new way of being. That's how we're operating. So for anybody in the coaching world, that's generally what's happening. At the beginning of COVID, so about 3 days into our first lockdown, I realized I was in a massive trauma response. So my trauma response is to get busy, overwork, overfill my calendar, make sure I've got something to distract me and not feel. That's my default. Put me under pressure, and I'm great under pressure because I disassociate, I get in, do what needs to be done. Now, that's sustainable for putting out a bushfire. It's not sustainable for riding out a 12-week pandemic or a 12-week lockdown. It's clear the pandemic's gone on way longer than that. But I realized I was in that trauma response and went, oh, look, here's that old pattern that I'm really familiar with. How do I adapt? How do I leverage? How do I integrate? I launched 2 courses in the first week of lockdown. Like the insanity of I am now homeschooling 4 kids and let's launch 2 courses. And yet I integrated it. I challenged myself. I did, and I adapted. And so that adaptability, I think, is the key to this. Anyone that's clinging to the old, anyone that wants things back the way it used to be, whether it's pre-COVID, I'm doing it a little bit at the moment. I'm seeing myself, my oldest son is about to turn 18. I want my baby back. And I'm clinging to, like, where did my baby go? He's now significantly taller than, he picked me up and moved me the other day. Like, he's significantly taller than me, significantly stronger than me, significantly bigger than me. There is no turning this clock back. That's where we get pain. That's where we get, and even more than pain, that's where we get suffering, because we have an attachment to what was that will never be again. And I think you're right, Jim. I can't remember if it was Jim or Angelito, where the tea bag has been in the water. The water is never going back. It's been changed. The world has been changed. The question isn't how do we navigate the changing world? The question is how long will it take us to accept that the world has changed? And because once we accept it, yes. What was that?
And create a new life based upon that acceptance, knowing that we have gone through a major life transition, period.
Yeah, huge transition. But we're doing, sorry, Debbie, you go.
I was just going to say that's, isn't that the, I guess, the innate thing about humans, though, is that ability to adapt, to whatever things are, however things are, you end up with I don't know, for me, a splinter in my finger, and, it's painful, it hurts, I should get it out. I haven't got time to stop and get it out now, so I adapt by, using something else around it so that it's still sitting there, it's still hurting, but I adapt and life goes on, and humans do everywhere. I've seen it with my daughter. She's she had the last year she was working from home, which meant that it's maybe 30 meters from her bedroom door to where her office was set up, and she did that, but now she's working in an office. Yes, it's only 15 minutes drive, but it means she needs to be at least half an hour before start of work to be there and in the office and ready to go. And her first month at that was like just really hard work. She was just absolutely exhausted at the end of every day because she'd added, well, it's not just the half an hour, there's also the getting up and having to actually get formally dressed for an office and prepare, lunches and whatever else to go with that. Whereas working from home, basically you can throw on a top half and you can be at work. And, and then, between whatever you can get everything else organised. But, within a month, I think it's about coming up to 2 months now, but she has adapted to that and she is handling her days, relatively easily now. But yeah, that whole adaptability thing is an inbuilt human thing. But in saying that, there are, like you were saying, Amy, there's people that resist, and even though physically they adapt, they mentally kind of don't go, there's this mental lag. And, that is, for me, that, that's where I see the suffering comes in. I said to her, it's going to take you at least a month in this new job to kind of get a handle on, everything that's new about it, and the longer days and the, all the other bits that go with that.
Yeah, it's the resistance to accepting the change. We're going through transition phases all the time. The seasons transition, the moon transitions. Have been playing and studying cycles. Jim, you and I need to have a conversation about the cycles that I've been studying recently, because you and I are going to geek out over them. But there's transitions all the time. The moon is in a different phase. For women, their menstrual cycle and the hormones are in different phases. The seasons are changing. There's constant transformation and change. The pandemic is another piece in the cycle that can trace back. There's one every 100 years or so. It's just part of the usual transition. Yes, but not many people alive have experienced this one. Well, not the pandemic so much, but the seasons are transitioning. We see it on a little scale. So the full moon, we're used to the full moon versus the new moon. People all the time will say, oh my God, it must be a full moon. We were out driving the other day and my husband said to me, oh my God, it must be a full moon, because there are people on the road. So we're used to there being transitioning energies, but most people aren't talking about it. It's the same with life cycles. We're used to there being transitioning energies in that, except that we're ignoring them and denying them and resisting the change. And that's where suffering. So pain, transformation, change, all of them are going to happen through life. We suffer when we refuse to acknowledge and accept that this is part of the life journey. And it's funny because this is a whole nother conversation, but I really believe suffering is optional. And in the coaching work I do, the deeper you understand how you create the human condition, the more suffering truly becomes optional. But most people don't get that. And then when they do, it's like this light bulb comes off. And when they do at a younger age, because this is something we don't teach in schools. But
yeah, that's starting the emotional connection, Jim.
Say that again.
Is that to do with the emotional connection to the event or to the thing that is changing?
It might also be the emotional connection of how we want things to be the same, but quite literally, the only constant that we have in life is change. It really is the only constant.
And so we know that there's change and we know that there's transitions. And I heard Debbie say something earlier about just adapting. And I think Jim said it as well, like that we have to adapt, but I'm not about adapting. Like, I'm about creating. Like, yeah, if you can adapt and live a mediocre life, you can adapt and still be pushed around and be affected by everything that's going on in your environment and your situation and circumstances. That's what happens when you adapt. But I choose to take it a step further and create and co-create and actually take action on what I want my world to look like. I don't want to just be a pinball in a machine where if something happens here, again, Jim doesn't want to talk about politics, but that's the truth. People are affected by that. People are affected by the news. People are affected by pandemics, like things around, things going on in the world. And we're just like pinballs being moved like by whoever's in control. And I'm sick of that. I'm not about that life. I want to do what I am in control of. And you know what's funny is that we think that we don't have very much control, but you'd be amazed at how much each individual person can control in their life.
Yep. The deeper you understand, the more control you have.
The problem is people have given up that control.
Yeah. Well, and people have given up understanding and they turn to drugs and alcohol and they turn to other crutches just to numb them from the pain they create.
Have they given up understanding or haven't been exposed to it?
That's true in our world. That's true in this new world. We may not have been exposed to it. That's actually quite, again, Amy, quite the brilliant point.
Well, exposed to, so Jim said they've given up understanding like the way they work, I assume was the end of that sentence.
Yes.
So have they given up understanding themselves, or have they just not been given the opportunity to understand themselves better and understand the motivations? I think with the...
what is the opportunity to understand yourself look like?
Well, it's understanding, like in Jim's world, it's understanding how you create this experience of life. And to your point, Angelito, like some people don't feel they have control when you really do have control. But when you understand how you create this experience called life, you can deepen the control. And to me, right, especially when I work with clients who have deep control issues, do you know what the ultimate form of control is? Surrender. And you really have to think about that, because for somebody that's a control, no, I can't surrender. But the more you surrender and the more you understand surrender, the deeper you will understand life. And happiness in life is your birthright. And if you understand what makes you happy, and if you understand what makes you not happy, you have a lot of power to choose, whether it's actions, whether it's places to be, whether it's people to interact with, whether it's even the thoughts that you choose to express. Most people don't get that. Young people don't get that.
Well, it's so many people out there who will say, well, of course I'm suffering. How else am I meant to be? And they don't have the awareness that we in this group do, that suffering is optional. Pain is inevitable. Transition is inevitable. Change is the only known constant. All of these messages make sense to us and are familiar to us, but there are so many people that don't know that message. There's so many people that aren't exposed to, and that's what I'm saying, is that they're choosing against it, or they've not been exposed to the message. And I think for most of them, they've not been exposed to the message. There are some that have been exposed to the message. I must admit, this week in my transition phase that I am facing, I said, fuck it. And I went to caffeine and alcohol and chocolate and allowed myself a week of, I am just going to numb out. I'm going to watch Netflix. I'm going to binge eat. I'm going to do all of these that I know are not serving me. And I did that consciously, and I dove into that. Whereas most people are doing it automatically. Most people aren't even aware that they're doing it.
And it sounds like you gave it a week and you're aware of it. And when you get
sick, it got a week,
you'll move back into your transition. You'll move back. But that is the difference with understanding.
Yeah.
So it
got a week. And I did. I gave myself a week, and I don't think it got a week. It might have been 3 or 4 days. And it's like, all right, well, now you've had your sulk. Now you've had your, I wish this was the way it used to be. Now you've had your temper tantrum. Now you've had your attachments and suffered for a couple of days. How long are you going to keep holding on to this attachment of, I don't like this transition phase that I'm in. I don't like the transition phase of my children growing up and being independent. I don't like the transition phase of where my body is hormonally right now. There's a whole pile of transitions that I don't like. Holding on to that and being attached to that is going to make me suffer. How long I hold on to that attachment will dictate how long I suffer.
And even the actions you take while you're suffering, it may deepen the suffering.
Oh, yeah, the alcohol and the caffeine certainly deepened the hormonal imbalance and deepened the suffering. It certainly wasn't solving anything.
And Amy, especially when you only have one cup and your cup is literally like a 4-quart bowl.
Can you show it to us again? Because it's very
Look at this. Look at this. There's 3 liters of caffeine in that baby.
I'm back to tea. I'm back to tea and protein, which I know serves me way better than caffeine and alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
But that's because I've been exposed, because I've had the education. And so many, particularly with the conversation, like the topic I'm talking about, so perimenopause is so untalked about. People are not exposed to what that means. And I know it's probably not relevant for the men, but for the women, it's just not talked about enough. And that's why I know it's not a rebellion against it. It's a lack of awareness. Yeah, and that's where we as coaches come in.
the lack of understanding. And I do think men go through cycles. And I do think like you said perimenopause, right? What if men's midlife crisis is their perimenopause? We just haven't done the studies to where we can identify that your hormones and your life is shifting. And because of that, you start behaving different. That's a whole other episode.
It is a whole other episode. There's a couple of really good men myths. There's very few women myths because they've all been destroyed over the years. I'll see if I can find it. I'll share it with you. About the men transition phase and what their midlife crisis is based on. But the women's side of things just hasn't been spoken about enough. And I don't think the men's side is either. And that's where that awareness, that understanding and the appreciation that transformation is part of life.
It is.
We've all been through transformation. We've all been through journeys. I sat down with myself last night. I'm like, okay, this has got to stop. I've got to move through this. I can't keep holding on to this attachment. I sat down and I wrote down all of the transformations that I've had over my life that I could remember in the moment. And there's been a bunch of them. And I've come out the other side of all of them. And we've all had that. We've all had that journey from child to adolescent to adult and a bunch of other transformations along the way.
I am in the middle of a huge transformation right now, right? And it's actually ironic that this show, which is normally in a private group, my friend Jeff would say no Mac, right? No mistakes, no accidents, no coincidences. I do not think it's not a mistake that Empower Hour, the show, is going out to everybody.
Yeah, and with that, like I realized that, you know, when we have these conversations in a coach's group, and when we talk about coaching, that we're normally talking to people who speak the language of coaching. Yeah. And so, like, if you're watching this on Jim's timeline, forgive us for sounding, you know,
coachy.
Well, at least for me, like, yeah, like sometimes I tend to sound self-righteous because I forget, and sometimes I take for granted where I was before, but I do understand the pain. I do understand that struggle, especially if you know, are in a situation in your life where you want to create change, and where you're ready for change because you're sick and tired of that life, that situation, whatever it is that's causing you pain in your life. And I want to let you know that there are people, you know, who will listen to you. Jim is one of them. And, you know, he specializes in helping people go from crisis to, you know, an amazing life. So make sure to reach out to him.
Thank you.
If you're in that situation.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this, you may want to consider joining Empower Hour.
Yeah, that's yeah. How do people do that? Well, I'll actually have to post a link.
You're
gonna have to
figure that out because I actually made this, and I want to wrap it up because we're coming up on an hour. You've been listening to Empower Hour. You've just been listening to it on Jim's feed. So I'll find a way to get it in the group. And then thank you for joining us. And if this is your first time joining a Facebook Live, thank you. It is greatly appreciated. I'd also like to thank Debbie and Amy and Angelito. And I will by Wednesday or Thursday, I'll get this thing figured out, but I will post a link on how to join Empower Hour. We talk once a week, and we literally talk about what it is like to be empowered. And it's been set up for coaches, but because of this little error, I may actually open it up. I'll talk to the brain trust of Amy and Angelito, because we three have, as poor Debbie has seen, we three, like we will literally, I
think you should absolutely open it up, because coaches, we are like, there's coaches are trained to, you know, create shifts in themselves, and we have access to each other. Let's open it up to people who actually
are open to shifting.
Yeah.
Start preaching to the converted and start sharing some of the
who could use it.
Mental shift possibilities.
Right? Because here's the other thing.
Those that don't know that that's an option.
It's a whole room of coaches that specialize in all kinds of different things. So if you're looking for something specific, I know the place that you just might find it, because it may not be Jim, maybe Angelito, it may be Amy, maybe Debbie. So thank you for listening. I'm going to wrap this one up. You've been listening to the Empower Hour. It's been going now for 1 hour. I want to thank you. Y'all create an incredibly empowered week, and we will see you next week. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.